All right, I'm going to throw my screen on to y'all's. We'll just kind of talk just a little bit and I'll let you go on about your business. I don't think we have really any new topics this week. So it's, another fairly good week maybe to get caught up on some things. There are some parts and some assemblies and stuff. So what I'm looking for, this is a trolley assembly. And, if you want to print this out, you're welcome to print it if it's easier for you to work off the paper, or you can use the PDF, just whichever is easiest for you. But this is another assembly. So we're going to put the things together. And then it's also got some standard fastener pieces that, we wouldn't necessarily need to create drawings for. And that's something I kind of want everybody to kind of realize. Usually, you may have a model that represents the size and shape so that the assemblies look appropriate. But usually for an organization, there might not be a particular drawing for, say, a bolt or a nut or a washer that's just plain bolts, nuts, and washers that you buy. Now, there's a specification of, grade or hardness and, thread type and that sort of thing for each thing. But there might not be a working drawing like there is every other part in the organization. Because the energy is focused on creating those drawings for the parts that you actually manufacture, that you need to know all the details to make a part. So most cases, you don't have a drawing sheet of all the fasteners, of each fastener. So, for the projects that we'll do here, we won't create drawings for stuff that we buy off the shelf. Okay. So, this part has got, or this assembly has got, like a base here. It's got some little shims inside here. It's got, this side piece, got a little axle or shaft type thing right through here. And it's got this wheel. Those are really the pieces that we're going to need drawings for, and this little plate here. Now there's screws that hold this plate in. There's these bolts and nuts and washers down here. There's some snap rings that we don't necessarily need a drawing for. There's a departure bearing that we don't necessarily, that you would actually buy off the shelf as well. It's not something you'd fabricate in your shop, most likely. So, those things I've actually provided for you, and I'll show you where to get those here in a minute. But with this PDF, if you use the Adobe Reader to view it, or you might could do this in your, these that get kind of turned sideways kind of throw me for a loop sometimes. If I get really in a bind, I'm not hesitant to just rotate this thing around, turn it the right way instead of turning my head sideways, so don't be afraid to do that. That's free, or if you print it and just turn it sideways, that's fine too. But this kind of blows out some of the pieces and lets you know what you're going to be making. So, you're not going to be making these 1024 round screws. You're not going to be making these 7/8 bolts or these washers. Or the nuts, those are things that we'd buy. So those are things that are coming. We are going to have to make these side pieces, these shims, and this crosshead. And we are going to have to make this wheel. And it's unfortunate, but the details on this wheel come across on a couple of different drawings. So you kind of got to thumb back and forth between them. So this has a lot of the outside diameters and the thicknesses, but you'll get some of the nitty gritty stuff on the inside on this drawing view on this sheet here. So, don't forget it. This would be internal retaining ring and an external retaining ring. That's going to be something you'd buy off the shelf, so you're not going to have to model those. This little axle piece, you will have to model it. The departure bearing here and the other internal snap ring, you will not be modeling. The side plate and the little cross, the mounting bracket thing here's pieces there. So what I'm looking for is an individual drawing, for the 6 non-standard parts. So that'd be, 6 trolley parts plus an assembly drawing. So there'll be 7 total drawings I'm looking for. So each of the non-standard parts will have an A or, a B or C size sheet for each one of those parts. And then the assembly, one assembly drawing. So the assembly drawing, I want the top, the front, the right side, isometric with balloons. So the isometric view should have the balloons on it. And then we want that bill of material and vendor calls a parts list on there, item number, part number, description, and the table bill of material parts list table on your drawing. Now, your top, front, and right side view are orthographic views, just like every other part you've worked on up to this point. Those drawing views need to have the hidden lines and the center lines in them, just like we always do. So don't, I get a lot of that even with the students that are about to graduate. If the assembly view doesn't come in with the hidden lines turned on, nobody ever thinks to turn them on. But I need everybody to understand that orthographic views always have hidden lines in them. So we always make sure those hidden lines are on. So all your orthographic views have hidden lines. You'll probably need a section view to show that those internal details. May even need a detail view to blow that stuff out. If we look at what kind of I'm expecting here, I've asked for an exploded assembly view. So sorry about that. So have y'all done that yet? Presentation views where you exploded, pull the pieces apart? Well, if y'all get the pieces made, maybe on Friday we can presentate them if you haven't done that yet.
Does the exploded one, it's like, doesn't it have lines that connect?
It can. You can turn those on and off. But yeah, it shows how the pieces go together. It kind of pulls the pieces apart.
So I feel like that's something Inventor can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Honestly.
Y'all just haven't done it yet.
Put the assembly together and then do exploded. And then it just
Sort of. Yeah, it's not quite. Yeah,
it's
it's not quite that. It's not quite that. But that's sort of like that. You got to put a little bit more energy into it. But
well, it's probably easier than going, okay, we put it together.
Yeah.
Now we got to pull this.
it's a lot easier than drawing it in AutoCAD in a
Yeah.
2D isometric loaded view.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's not hard. If we can get the parts modeled, at some point I'll certainly help you with the presentation file. And that's just it with Inventor. Exploded views are another file type. So you have part file, you have the drawing file, you have an assembly file, and now if you want an exploded view, it's called a presentation file, where some of the others don't do that. But
And so, I don't know if they figured out how to do this, but, whenever we did, or whenever I did the, other assembly, first one.
yeah,
I was finishing it up and Mr. Treats, and he was helping me, like, he told me that I could, like add new sheets.
yeah,
Put them all together.
yeah, in one drawing file instead of multiple. Yeah,
So
and
is that what we would do for this?
well, I don't know that that's a good or a bad practice. So what Zach's saying is like he had this assembly project and he had a drawing file that had individual sheets for all the parts. In the real world, that probably wouldn't be a good thing because the parts themselves may be used in a dozen or more assemblies. So which one would you find it in, right? So in the real world, each part should have its own individual drawing file rather than multiple parts in one drawing file that you can't find.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I tend not to encourage that a whole lot just because in the real world, you have to be able to find the drawing file for that part you're working on. And if it's buried in one of the 120 assemblies that it's used in,
Right.
it's going to be a problem. So not a bad thing to do for us here. It's kind of nice because I just opened up this 12-2-1 and it's all right there.
Right.
It is kind of nice for us here, but in the real world, each part will have its own little drawing file. That's my take on that. So I don't even generally show how to add multiple sheets, but like Zach's saying, you can add multiple sheets into a drawing file and put whatever parts you want into there. So for us, it's pretty good. Real world, not so much. So I don't want to get you trained in bad habits personally, but you can do it however you like. I won't yell. I won't yell at you. I won't even know. I'm going to see individual PDF files of each sheet anyway, so I won't know how you did it.
Well, I did come.
Oh, they were all one PDF that had. Okay.
And you just had to scroll through it.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah.
On this 12-1, I've given you these parts. So this says balloon number 7. So what that means is if you see on this drawing where the balloons are at, did you see it?
Yeah, the parts are all in.
Yeah. So, that's that part. So you can actually download. These are parts that are already modeled and you just put them in your assembly where they belong. So you just download these by clicking the little download arrow, put them in your folder with your other parts and put those in your assembly. You don't have to get them out of the content center.
And so whenever we do the parts list on the assembly, do you want us to have the ones in the same order?
I'm not really, that's a good question, and I think it came up last week. I don't really care that what the balloon number is. To me, it doesn't matter.
Just as
So
long as it has a balloon and it's labeled.
yes, and it shows up in the table and it's got an individual part number, a description, and a quantity. I don't really care if the balloon number matches what the problem one was. If that's something that's would bother your OCD personally, those balloon numbers by default come in the order that you place the part in the assembly. So how it's listed down that
Right, and that's
feature.
already the last one, I made sure.
Yeah, and we got 10 or 12 parts, that's okay to do that. But if there were 100 or so, it'd get kind of out of hand trying to do it exactly right. So I don't really care. The item number is just pointing us to a place in that bill of material to find that thing. So I really don't care. So don't burn a lot of energy on that for my account. Any questions about this part? It's the parts are not terribly hard. That roller part, this pulley, what's the best way to make that? How do you make that shape? Revolve, right? What about this axle piece right here? Also a revolve, right? So these are just tolerances on the width of that knot. So you just make one tolerance and then apply the tolerance to your dimension in the drawing to get it to show up correctly. So you'll revolve what's that? If you pick the BA 122, it'll come out right there.
I think I'm gonna list two.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to work off of. Well, I don't know. I like the PDF because I can zoom in. I can't really see that good. So I've gotten to where I like the PDFs a little bit better, but just depends.
I guess if I need to look at it closer, I can.
Yeah, you can always zoom in. Absolutely. But yeah, you're free to print these out. The other